Well, large parts of southwest Berlin are still in the dark after a suspected arson attack triggered a major power outage. Berlin's mayor says that it was likely carried out by left-wing political extremists.
Okay, as somebody who has been harping about how fragile and yet simultaneously incredibly important power is for everything in regards to modern civilization, this is yet another example of saboteurs and or terrorists, however you want to look at it, attacking a power company, or in this case, attacking a power line.
The blackout was caused by a fire on a cable bridge near the Lichterfelder power station, cutting electricity in several large districts in the city.
Now, why this particular location was chosen? Well, if you come to the map right here and you kind of look around, you'll see, oh, well, there happens to be a power company right there. And spanning just across the canal, you see a little bridge. Now, the media doesn't tell you exactly where this occurred, but if you come to Google Street View, you can see this area is fairly well locked off, and it's probably, well, let me say it this way. According to the media reports, high voltage cables were attacked via fire or incendiary devices that came across the river or this canal. Well, this is probably where that's occurring, just looking at the map. Now, the details of this is that the original attack occurred on January 3rd, sometime in the early morning, and it wasn't actually resolved until sometime January 7th. So you got about 5 days with no power.
Emergency services turned this hall into a shelter, a place to warm up, to charge phones, and to get online. But for some, it's far from enough.
Personal is perfect,
How can a nearly 100-year-old woman sleep on a camp bed? I find this unacceptable.
And if you look at the current temperature of Berlin, it's in the middle of winter, it's in January, it's -4 in Celsius, or for all the freedom lovers out there, it's 26 degrees. So it's pretty cold. And in case anybody doesn't realize, you lose about 10 times as many people to death in the cold than you do during the heat. So you can look at graphs like this and you can see, yes, far more people, 9, 10, 15, 10 times as many people are dying due to cold than they are in the heat. So this is a single power company, a single set of power lines that were damaged with probably some type of petrol bomb or incendiary device that took out power to about 45,000 households, about 2,000 businesses, and kept them plunged into darkness with no heat for about a week. Now,
staying with friends or in temporary accommodation. Others came here just to escape the cold.
Now, while the media has not said specifically, nor the police have reported exactly how this was done, which makes obvious because you don't want to put out there exactly how to take out power lines, this isn't something that is overly complicated. These idiots were able to do this with literally just likely small incendiary devices or some type of large fire. Now, that said, you can look at groups like Palestinian Action and you can see what lack of training can actually get you, where these morons are getting onto RAF bases and damaging multi-million-dollar pieces of hardware. And it has nothing to do with their robust James Bond-style training. It just has to do with complacency of security. Now, as for those actually involved,
on Sunday, a left-wing extremist group called the Vulkangruppe claimed responsibility, saying the attack was aimed at Germany's use of fossil fuels. They say the goal was to sabotage a gas-fired power plant, triggering outages in wealthier parts of the capital.
It's a left-wing terrorist group who's very opposed to governments using cheap energy in the form of coal, gas, or anything else. So they tried to sabotage this, and like most terrorists, they had no consideration for the 45,000 people or the 2,000 businesses that were going to be plunged into cold and darkness for about a week. But luckily, so far, only one casualty has been possibly attributed to this, which was an 83-year-old woman who was found dead in her cold apartment, and it's unclear if she died due to the cold or she died from natural causes prior. Though I will say that not like these terrorists actually cared. Now, luckily, this was one terrorist event in one city, and it wasn't a coordinated attack over multiple power stations, multiple substations, or multiple power lines feeding from multiple locations into the city, which would have been a much, much bigger problem. But that said, this is something that I would hope that governments and security services take more into consideration. When you realize the sheer importance and vital nature of electricity, everything from water pumps to heating to the internet to from trains, and everything that we use relies on electricity. And yet, it is still one of the most vulnerable aspects of our entire critical infrastructure. And that's something that has to change. And hopefully events like this, as terrible as they are, will encourage security and encourage politicians and governments to actually take considerations when it comes to critical infrastructure.